Hello and welcome to part 2 of Britain's Best Drivers' Car 2022, the annual Drivers' Car feature that Autocar has been running for more than 30 years. We take the 10 best sports cars launched this year, plus last year's winner, to decide which is best. In last week's video we covered positions 11 through till 6, and this week we will cover the top 5 best drivers' cars of the year. Now, I didn't drive them in the order in which they finished, because at that point I didn't know, but imagine it's first thing in the morning and you have a cold, damp racetrack outside. Which car do you think you would jump into first?
You know what, I'm inclined to begin in a Toyota GR86 because it's an approachable car, it's a friendly car. I haven't driven it yet, but I hear quite good things. It sounds a little bit more synthetic, I think, than the old one. Doesn't sound so flat four-ish. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The old car, people were sometimes critical of its willingness to rev to high RPMs, but this revs out really nicely to 7.5. Really snicky, smooth gear shift, excellent brake pedal feel. Oh yeah, nice throttle blip response. Steers really nicely, and there is instantly some throttle adjustability. The formula is as per the GT86, front-engined, 4-cylinder engine with a 6-speed manual to rear-wheel drive and a limited slip differential. All good things. Doesn't weigh very much. Is really keen, actually. I like this very much so far. Right, let's see what it will do. Oh, it will move around beautifully. Really beautifully. This is peachy. Absolutely peachy. Oh, it's so nicely balanced through the high-speed stuff. It's just got enough power these days just to ease through and just straighten itself up even in high-speed corners. Was not a criticism of the old one, but it was a bit of a criticism of the old one. Some people used to say, oh, it hasn't got enough power at this sort of money. You know, you get a hot hatch with 300 horsepower. Well, you had to sort of embrace the purity. I don't think you kind of have to make excuses for this and its purity anymore. It's just, God, this is really nice. Even in higher speed corners, this is a third gear bend. 70 miles an hour. Still straighten itself, adjust its line. I mean, how much power, how more adjustable do you want it to be in high speed stuff? It's got absolutely enough power to exploit the chassis. What an absolute joy. What a car. Well, I'm tempted to end the contest here. Right then, a McLaren Artura, the Arthur. I mean, ergonomically, it's really good, this car. I would like the steering wheel to go a little bit higher. I don't think it will, but it's terrifically sound. You can do left foot to brake, right foot falls perfectly on the throttle. They get those basics right. Visibility is really good. This then is the hybrid McLaren, now cured of some of the issues that affected the launch cars, we're told, and it's been here all day, good as gold, to be fair to it. It's very, very fast. Easy level of performance, nice firm brake pedal, great steering response, really nicely linear, tells you what's going on. McLaren retains hydraulic assistance for its steering, where most companies have gone on to electrical assistance for the reason that it's more efficient in terms of fuel consumption primarily, but it also allows a greater degree of tuning. But hey, if you're rear wheel drive, there's not too much load on the front wheels, you can tune a hydraulic rack. McLaren thinks perfectly well, and who am I to argue? Of course, it's really fast, it's really capable, it's really stable. That wasn't always true of the fastest McLarens, like the 675 Longtail in particular was a little bit squirrely under braking. This feels very stable. How does that engine sound to you? It's no less dramatic than the V8, I don't think. Maybe a bit more sonorous, there's not a huge amount in it. These are still not the world's greatest sounding engines. We'll come to a couple of those in a moment, I think. But it feels good and it's really effective. And unlike some of the sort of previous gen McLarens, if you like, where you get on the power and you wait and then it sort of threatens to understeer, then the turbo whooshes it through. With this hybrid system, there isn't that delay, there isn't that pause. You get on the power like that and it's automatically straight away giving you a shove in the back. That said, I turn in there, push on a bit, does understeer a little, then it pushes into oversteer. There, it's pushing on just a bit. And then the oversteer comes in quite late and quite briskly, in a fashion that McLarens have always done, and in a way that some other supercars do not. And it's not unsettling. If you just steer into it, it corrects it, but it kind of encourages you to drive the car the way it wants to be driven. Whereas my feeling with McLaren's perennial rival, which has been the contemporary Ferrari of the time, you get a bit more option. You approach the corner in the way that you want to, and it goes, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to drive me really precisely? Do you want to drive me balls out sideways? How do you want to play it? And McLaren likes to be braked into a corner, it likes to be driven out of a corner, wants you to settle the nose on the way in, wants to just explore the line on the way out. And if you don't do that, it can feel a little bit clumsy. You need to get into its window. And if you do that, it's incredibly rewarding and also incredibly fast. We've back-to-back tested in group tests, road tests, Ferrari versus McLaren several times. I think McLaren usually makes the quicker car, but Ferrari tends to make the slightly more enjoyable car. This is not a direct rival to the Ferrari we have here, which is the 296 GTB, which we'll come into in a moment. It's more powerful, it's more expensive, but they are both mid-engined V6 hybrid cars from supercar manufacturers who have tended to make V8 turbos with the engines in the middle. So it'd be interesting to see the two, and it's really good, really enjoyable, really involving.
And so, pop pickers to the top three. First of those is the Porsche Cayman GT4 RS.
Okay, this is a Porsche Cayman GT4 RS, which means it's one of the greatest drivers' cars we've driven in a very, very long time. You will find video elsewhere of this on this channel, if you'll forgive the call to action. So like the GT3, it revs to 9,000. It feels lighter as it's doing it. The whole car feels, because the engine's in the middle, I suppose, it's got a lower moment of inertia, it moves around. In terms of its agility, it turns in much more easily, I think. You don't have to manage the front end quite so much, and then you don't have to manage the rear quite so much. This has always been true of a Cayman, really. It's got such a fantastically, beautifully balanced front to rear weight distribution. For a long time, Porsche didn't want to give it more power than a 911 in case it turned out to be a better driver's car. And they've resisted making it an RS until now. God, what an engine. Steering is relatively light, but it weights up very quickly. You get loads of feel. You can absolutely tell what this entire car is up to. It's really precise on turning, and it's just throttle adjustable in a really delicate fashion. Not in the same way that the 911 GT3 is. It's much more needle-like in its sharpness. It's just, whereas a GT3 is like knitting, this is like sewing the most delicate thread. Oh, its mid-corner balance is terrific. You can just carry loads of mid-corner speed. You can actually brake while it's turning a little bit there and it doesn't get unsettled. And it'll just take on little angles of slide. I don't think that's its natural habitat. The wheelbase is relatively short. The engine's very spiky. Oh no, hang on though. Well, unexpected. It will also play tunes on the throttle. Oh man, what a thing. I mean, I wouldn't like to call between this and a GT3. They do similar things in some ways, but they are very different in other ways, and they are both off the scale sublime. Man, what a driver's car this is. It's also a terrific road car. Like, really beautifully balanced. The lightness shows, its relative compactness shows, but on a circuit, my oh my, what a machine. What a machine. I adore this.
Oh man, I love that GT4 RS. We all love that GT4 RS. Now, the way we score this is that there are up to 250 points on offer for any individual car. The Cayman scored 220, but this next car scored 221.
Right then, to the 296 GTB, Ferrari's plug-in hybrid V6, the Piccolino V12, the little V12. It's actually 6 cylinders, but they say it sounds like 12. Does it? Does sound pretty good, you know. And also, it is absurdly rapid. Ferraris have won this contest before. Oh, it is good, this car. It steers lightly, more lightly than the McLaren, but I think I prefer it. Changes direction really nicely. It does feel heavier than, say, the F8 Tributo or the 488, 458 and so on before it. And it is possible that I think, engine-wise, we peaked with some of the old naturally aspirated V8s. And also chassis-wise, maybe it peaked with a 488, which was a little bit lighter than this, or an F8 Tributo. But this still has a really gorgeous, gorgeous approach to life, where it's blisteringly fast, and yet also very approachable. And you get choices, you get options. When you point it at a corner, you can be really precise, or if you want to be a hoon, you can hoon. And I absolutely love it for that. You know, it doesn't take itself too seriously in the same way, almost like a Morgan doesn't take itself too seriously, but to the same extent, it has all of the capability and, I mean, more of the performance, but all of the seriousness and the keenness and the focus of a GT Porsche or whatever. It's just really, really brilliant. And given that there is a hybrid system to think about, all of these systems, and the fact that they integrate them so well that it's so docile, so tractable, and such a laugh is, I think, Ferrari's real achievement with this car. I mean, it's just... that is ridiculous. I've said it before, around these around these corners, in some of these Ferraris, you shouldn't be able to play with cars that have this much power and this much performance just so easily. But you can. Just brilliant. Absolutely adore it. Are there cars I prefer here? Maybe there are, but this will be right near the top of the tree, no question.
And that means there's one car left. On 225 points, it's the Porsche 911 GT3.
So the 911 GT3 won this competition last year, which is why it's back to see if it can retain its title, as occasionally happens in Britain's best driver's car. We've had a couple of cars that have effectively, their replacements have won when the car went out of production after winning and something else came along. But let's see if the GT3 will still do its thing. The bad thing is I'm not stretching it out at the moment, yet it's still doing like 6,000-7,000 RPM. It revs to 9 in a sort of mind-blowing, eye-popping fashion. And it's really precise, but also will do all that malarkey. So it's a real mix of things. Tyres are a little bit cold at the moment, so just run into a tiny bit of understeer, and that is something that this 911 does. Because the front end is more lightly loaded than the rear, you have to sort of get the fronts up to temperature, and if you lean on them on the way into a corner, that's really helpful to just get them hot, get the nose balanced, and then you can start to play around with the rear. You can drive it incredibly precisely, but you don't have to if you don't want to. It feels like a really beautifully precise, scalpel sharp precision tool if you treat it like this, really delicately. Just listen to that bleeding engine as well. The response is fantastic. Gear shift speed is sensational. In the high speed stuff, you just sort of nudge up to the point where the front's pushing on. It's just really precise. But will also do that, and I'm sorry, I know it's childish. Oh, it could just be perfectly... What a real, absolute, sharp weapon this thing is. It's just fantastic.
This is only the fourth time in the contest's 33-year history that a car has retained its title, and it's the first Porsche to do so. Thank you for watching. We're here at least every week with reviews and more. You can find us over on autocar.co.uk all the time. There is still time to buy a subscription to Autocar for Christmas, don't you know? It's available in digital form or in print, as it has been every week since 1895. See you next time.